Running back ADP risers and fallers coming off of the 2023 NFL draft right now on FFT in 5. What's going on, everybody? Dave Richard here. Let's talk about the running backs, but not the rookies, the veterans, and which ones moved up and which ones moved down after the NFL draft. A lot of this information will be kind of obvious, and if you've been paying attention to our regular podcast on fantasy football today, you're probably not going to get a whole lot out of this, although I did add a little bit. I'm going to include the draft position of every player we're about to talk about in the next 5 minutes. We've got 6 running backs to get through. Buckle up. This is going to be fast. 3 risers at running back. First one's Tony Pollard, and this one's more about staying steady. We are still a little bit worried about the Dallas Cowboys adding another running back to take touches away from Tony Pollard. One of those running backs could still be Ezekiel Elliott. But in the draft, they added Deuce Vaughn. The guy's 5'5" and 180 pounds. More of a pass catcher, maybe a little bit like Darren Sproles, if you guys remember him. Kind of a sleeker change of pace back, not a feature back. So for at least 2023, it's starting to look like Tony Pollard could play 45 snaps a game, catch a bunch of targets, and work that short yardage goal line role that Ezekiel Elliott took away from him in 2022. And if that's the case, then he warrants a first-round pick. That's where he went in our very first mock draft after the NFL draft. He went 1.11, late first round, ahead of Josh Jacobs, Breece Hall, Stephon Diggs, Derrick Henry. Next running back, Joe Mixon. And this one's going to be a little interesting, if not a wee bit controversial, but you look at who the Bengals added in the draft. It's Chase Brown. I think he's a solid back. I don't think he's necessarily a guy that's going to push Joe Mixon off the field. If Joe Mixon is still the lead running back for the Cincinnati Bengals, which at this point in time, I mean, he's on the roster, looks like it's going to happen, we're undervaluing him. He's got potential to finish as a top 15 fantasy running back, if not a top 10 fantasy running back. We've seen that from him before. He just underwhelmed last year, but he's not going to share with Samaje Perine on third downs. Not sure if Chase Brown is the guy who will do it. Not sure the Bengals are done adding here either. But in our mock draft, he went in the 5th round, 3rd pick of round 5 to me. And I took him after Dalvin Cook was picked. Jahmyr Gibbs was picked. Miles Sanders was picked. Justin Fields was picked. To me, that's a crazy good value. I predict we will see Joe Mixon's ADP rise from the 5th round between now and late August. The 3rd ADP riser at running back, Dameon Pierce. Texans didn't add anybody in the draft at running back. They had added Devin Singletary in the moment. I know a lot of us were a little nervous about what Devin Singletary would mean to Dameon Pierce in this offense. But now that they've got CJ Stroud at quarterback, I think this is still going to be an offense that Dameon Pierce can dominate a little bit. And I think he's the better running back between him and Devin Singletary. He went with the first pick in round 5. I couldn't get him. I had to take Joe Mixon, but I would have taken Pierce if he were available at 503. Now let's get to the bad ones. The ADP fallers. And again, pretty obvious names, starting with Kenneth Walker. We saw what Seattle did. They drafted 2 running backs, including Zach Charbonnet in early round 2. How frustrating is that going to be for fantasy managers? Time will tell. If Walker goes to training camp and he's lights out, then he's going to be drafted way before where he went in our mock draft. That was with the 7th pick in round 3, behind Ramondre Stevenson, behind Travis Etienne, and behind Nick Chubb. And just so I have it in here, Zach Charbonnet, the guy that Seattle drafted and makes us all kind of queasy on Kenneth Walker, he went in round 9 at pick 6. So round 9, pick 6, that's not a bad time to go and get Charbonnet if you draft Ken Walker. And if you do it Walker in round 3, presumably you can get another running back with one of your other 3 picks in the first 4 rounds. Between Walker and Charbonnet, you should have an RB2 every single week with potential to be an RB1. That's the kind of stuff that can help you win a fantasy league. David Montgomery also fell before the NFL draft. We were really excited about his role in Detroit. Now that's going to be capped because of Jahmyr Gibbs there. But I've got another prediction. In our mock draft, David Montgomery went in round 6 with the 6th pick in round 6, middle of round 6. I think he's better than that. I think the touchdowns will still be there for him. I think he'll catch a couple of passes per game. And I think that he will end up outperforming that ADP. What's crazy to me is that Jahmyr Gibbs went in round 4 with the 8th overall pick in that round. That's a little crazy. I bet that evens out. I bet they'll get closer together by the time we get to NFL draft or fantasy drafts rather. And in non-PPR leagues, expect Montgomery to still go ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs. Last but not least, and this one's going to be really easy to get through, Tyler Algier. Man, we were taking him in like round 4, round 5 before the NFL draft. And in our first mock draft, he went in round 12. Late round pick. But it's important to note that he went to the same guy that took Bijan Robinson at 10th overall. So if you get Bijan Robinson, you want to kind of lock up that Falcons backfield, which sounds silly in the moment, but in reality, it could be a great thing. You can expect to get Tyler Algier past round 8, past round 9, those double-digit rounds. That's absolutely worth locking up that backfield and making sure that you've got the insurance policy for Bijan Robinson. We're going to talk about more ADP risers and followers coming up real soon. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing. This is always the place to come to get your quick fantasy football fix. This is FFT in 5.